what I wanted to say at the start of that last one is that when I'm saying like letting go of obligations, you have to realise that you're the most important thing here, and that you can't fulfil obligations to anyone else if you're in crisis point or depression. And like recognise the, because you could be like, oh, it's grand, like, you know, I only feel that way when I'm at home, or no one knows about it and I'm managing okay and keeping face when I'm out or whatever. No, you're the most important thing. And if this is bothering you to the point where you're watching a video called depression, then it's time to recognise that something's going on with you, and to actually shine light onto it, face up to it, and start to dissolve it in your life. So yeah, I wanted to say there are lots of options with depression. Some of these might sound a bit cliche, and apologies if they don't quite make the mark. I'm only sharing what I know, and sometimes I can't even define. Like, I've come a long way from the places that I've been right down in my life, and it's difficult to define all those steps in one little video. So I'm just going to give an overview of things you can explore into, because everyone's healing journey is different, and what works for me might not work for someone else. I've already talked about mantras. I've talked a little about meditation. Guided meditations are very good. I would say like meditation and that sort of thing are very good for you, but what I'm going to recognise now is that when you're in depression, sometimes you can't take those steps. You need something else before you can get there, before you can begin to become proactive in your own life. I want to talk about crisis point. When you're in crisis point, it can become very difficult to do the work. The work is done on the good days when you're not in crisis point, or like people who have a heavy depression don't necessarily have good days done in the good segments of days where you can like get yourself together enough to be proactive. But if you're at a flat level crisis point where you're either considering suicide, or you've tried suicide, or you are severely depressed all the time and can't see any happiness in life, I would definitely call that crisis point. I'm not a fan of doctors, I'm not a fan of hospitals. However, what I'm going to say is that if you're at rock bottom crisis point sometime, like, or if you're going through, it's a little difficult to say this to people, because if you're going through a psychotic episode, you're probably not going to recognise that you're going through a psychotic episode. So sometimes going to the hospital is your only option. I would definitely leave it till your last option, but I wouldn't rule it out completely, even though I hate them. I wouldn't rule it out completely, because sometimes it can be a lifesaver, and I've seen many instances in friends and stuff where there would be a psychotic episode and it could become so bad that in the moment of crisis you don't know what to do, so you go to the hospital. Maybe you get put on meds. You can wean yourself off them if you have to take the meds. Again, not a fan of meds, but if you really have to take them for something like a psychotic episode, or if you're really, really down and you have to take antidepressants, what I would say is don't hate them. Have a talk with yourself and say, I'm in crisis point, I need to do something for myself to stay alive right now. And if the only option that you can see at that moment, or the quickest or easiest option, right, this is all about the path of least resistance. What can I do, the easiest path to get myself where I need to be, which is better, you know? So if your option seems to be meds, antidepressants or whatever, antipsychotics, like I said, personally that would be my worst case scenario. But if you need to do it, make friends with the situation before you do it. There's no point in going into doing that and feeling bad about it, because then if you're going into that situation hating them, it's going to make it worse, because you're going to be resisting it. So if you have to take the meds, you say to yourself, right, these are going to get me across a plateau where I can use this time to begin to heal and care for myself. They're going to keep me alive for a certain amount of time. They're going to regulate this, that and the other for a certain amount of time. I'm not going to stay on them forever. Set a time in your head, be it 2 months or 3 months or 4 months or whatever, and say to yourself, or say to your doctors if that's possible, if they listen to you. They don't always listen to you. I'm doing this for a period of this amount of time, and then I'm going to wean myself off them. obviously don't just stop taking them. The nature of them is that they're quite addictive, and that you can have a relapse of depression if you come off them too quickly. So your doctor will talk you through all that if it's worst case scenario. But my point is, anything you decide to do and put in your body, you have to learn that to confront it in such a way that you make it a good experience for yourself. So if you're going to do it, just do it and tell yourself that you're going to have the best experience out of it, that they're really going to help you, and that even if there's side effects or anything else, that they're not going to have an effect on you, that it's very possible that you can do this and come out the other side of it, and that they add to your life instead of take away from it. As I say, I'm not an advocate of any type of pharmaceutical medication, but the subject we're on here is crisis point. And if you're at crisis point, and if you're going through experiences that you really can't manage, and you can't get help from any of the other methods that I'm going to mention now, and you find yourself having to do those things, or if you find yourself having to go into the mental hospital, all I can say to you is try and commit to yourself in such a way that you use that time to start to get better. And when you're in there, if they let you have your phone or whatever, or you have the internet, try to use it in such a way that you research for your well-being, and use the time in such a way that when you come out, you don't have to go back in again ever in your life, you know. You don't have to see it like a disaster. I am familiar with most of the mental hospitals in Ireland, because anytime my friends have episodes, I go and visit them if I'm available. And over the years I could name probably most of them. I do that because not everyone can mentally deal with visiting people in a mental hospital. Not many people want to go there. Personally, I've no problem with it. It doesn't bother me at all. So, and I know that when people are in that crisis point, sometimes they need a friend. So I've had the privilege of talking to doctors on behalf of my friends in most of the mental hospitals in the country, and visiting most of them and seeing what goes on in them. And what I will say is that most of the situations we're looking at are like either a spiritual awakening or some sort of like, you're actually a genius and you just don't know how to cope in the real world. You know, you just need someone to say that to you sometimes, like, and especially if people don't understand you and all. Like, it could be that you're just this being that's outside the realms of everyone else's understanding. Like, that doesn't make you mad. That doesn't make you weird. It doesn't make you different. It doesn't make you not acceptable. And you need to learn them things and say them to yourself, because no one else out there is going to tell you that. And no one else out there is going to tell you that you can get better, because pharmaceutical companies, doctors, hospitals, everything are bred on the facade of pumping people full of chemical drugs on the basis that they deal with symptoms and not the core root of the problem, because it's a business, and the longer you stay on those drugs, the more money they make. Anyway, that's a whole side issue, rabbit hole that we won't get down right now. Once you know that, you can use them to your favour. It's like, you know, if you have a headache, you don't take don't take a Panadol. But if it gets really, 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 really bad and you can't cope anymore and you're in crisis point, and then you take one, and then the next day you get up and then you go 3 months without taking one again, or you go 2 years without taking one again. It's that situation. If you're in crisis point, you need to make decisions to deal with things accordingly. If you can stay out of the hospital and get yourself better, do. I'm only speaking from experience. I don't want to be saying things and then people doing things on my advice and anything bad happens to them. You know, what I'm saying to you is tune into your gut instinct. If you're letting yourself know, or you're making an agreement with yourself that you want the path of least resistance, if you're in crisis point and the path of least resistance is the hospital or meds, maybe that's your path. You know, if it's not, you can try some of these other things. Now, I'm saying these things, and yeah, you can go to other people for these things, for healings and stuff, but you can also do most of these things, if not all of them, yourself. And what I've done over the years in my path of healing my depression was I've explored all these from a personal point of view. So I'm going to say things like Reiki, Shamanism, God and the church, even though that might not resonate with everyone, and I'll speak a little bit about that in a second. Healers of different descriptions, meditation and exercise, which personally I wouldn't be a fan of, but again I'll talk about that too. Gonna go quickly through them. Reiki, I explored Reiki myself years ago. I actually was doing Reiki on myself all my life. Like, if I had a sore throat, I'd put my hand over it and I'd be doing some sort of healing on myself as a kid, even, I remember, so it's not something that even necessarily has to be learned. But you can study these things, and things like Reiki, you're giving yourself Reiki, you're practicing on yourself, energy healing, bioenergy, all these sort of things. Like, you can explore all these, and they are all very valid ways and methods of helping yourself when you're in anything from crisis point to middle of the range emotions. You can always use these methods like Reiki to make you feel a bit better. And I say that you can do it on yourself because not everyone in a situation of depression is going to have money to spend on the facilities of having external healers do work with them. But if you have got a few bob, you can do like video chats, and people can do, like, you don't have to be beside someone for them to do a healing on you these days. Like, people can do a phone call or a video chat with you, and you can get distance healing with Reiki or different types of healing. And you can even explore to see if you have, or reach out to see if you have any friends that do that type of thing, because they might even do a session for you for free. But make sure you resonate with them, and make sure you check in with your own gut feeling and ask yourself, do I trust this person, and do I think this will better my situation? You have to take responsibility for your own healing, so you don't want to go into more situations of trauma by picking the wrong healers or attracting negative situations towards yourself, which sometimes you can do if you're in depression and you reach out to the wrong person because you didn't check in with your own gut instinct. So I would advise, before you approach anyone to even talk, share, or definitely before getting any type of a healing or letting anyone near your energy field or anything else, check in with your own gut instinct in every moment, even during the healing. If anything doesn't feel right, you just end it right then and there, and don't be afraid to speak up and end something if it doesn't feel right in any moment. You owe that to yourself, and you're the protector in your life right now. So you can do that. Like, maybe you didn't know that already, but you can be that voice, and you can be that parent for yourself. So you're going into every situation in a safe way. So Reiki healing, I studied the shamanism. I studied with some shamans and learned some different techniques. I'm not going to go deep into that right now because, again, it's a whole other subject. But shamanism techniques like journeys and different things can give you a lot of answers. You can Google shamanism journeys. You can get guided shaman journeys I'm sure on YouTube. I haven't looked at them. But you can also just work with yourself on it. If you have a connection with God, I'm going to use the word church and organised religion loosely, not because they have a bad rap, but because there has been so much infiltration of religious environments over the past thousands of years that there is as much trauma associated with the church as there is healing. However, if the church or God works for you, I would definitely recommend, if you have a good feeling about it, I would definitely recommend using that as an avenue for your healing, whether it's just going and praying or going and developing your relationship with God. You can talk to God. I don't know if everyone knows that, but you can talk directly to God. You don't even need a church or religion or anything else to do it. I will talk more about religions at another time. I have a very particular view on them, which is quite interesting, and it's a good discussion to have. But just to let you know that if you have a good view of God or a good relationship with God, you can directly talk to God and say, God, I'm depressed. What can you do to help me out of this? Or can you give me signs or direction, or even point me in the right direction, or open up avenues for me healing? And you can have that conversation, and obviously God is very powerful, so he will talk to you through whichever method is your best way of hearing him.